There was a young man named Daniel. He lived in a small city and had a simple life. From a young age, Daniel loved food. He did not just like to eat. He liked to watch people cook. When his mother made soup, he stood near the stove. When his father cut vegetables, Daniel watched the knife and the board. The kitchen was his favorite place. When Daniel was a child, he played with toy cars and balls, but he also played with spoons and bowls. He mixed water and flour and called it dough. He put salt on bread and said it was a special recipe. People laughed, but Daniel felt happy. In his heart, he already knew something important. He wanted to be a cook. As Daniel grew older, his dream became stronger. When other boys talked about sports or cars, Daniel talked about food. He talked about pasta, soup, meat, rice, and bread. He watched cooking shows on TV. He learned new words like kitchen, recipe, menu, ingredients, oven, pan, plate, and knife. These words stayed in his mind. After school, Daniel needed a job. His family was not rich, and he wanted to help. He also wanted to be close to food. One day, he walked past a big restaurant in the city center. The restaurant was large and bright. It had big windows and clean tables. Inside, he saw waiters, chefs, plates, and guests. People were eating, smiling, and talking. Daniel stopped and looked inside. He could smell food from the door. He smelled soup, grilled meat, fresh bread, and hot sauce. His heart beat faster. This place felt important. It felt like the right place. The next day, Daniel put on his clean shirt and went to the restaurant. He asked to speak to the manager. The manager was a serious man, but his voice was calm. Daniel said he wanted to work. He said he was ready to learn. He said he liked food and hard work. The manager looked at Daniel and asked simple questions. Can you work long hours? Can you listen and learn? Can you be polite with guests? Daniel said yes to everything. He was nervous, but honest. The manager gave Daniel a chance, not as a chef, not even as a cook. Daniel started as a restaurant worker. His job was simple but important. He cleaned tables, he carried plates, he helped waiters. He learned how the restaurant worked. Daniel started his first day early in the morning. The restaurant was quiet. Chairs were on tables, the floor was clean and shiny. In the kitchen, chefs were preparing food. They washed vegetables, they cut meat, they boiled water. The sound of knives, pans, and plates filled the room. Daniel wore simple work clothes. He had an apron. He felt proud. His first tasks were cleaning and helping. He wiped tables with a cloth. He put clean plates on shelves. He took dirty dishes to the kitchen. He learned words like tray, counter, sink, and dishwasher. At lunchtime, the restaurant became busy. Guests came in groups and alone. They sat at tables and looked at the menu. Waiters took orders. They wrote food and drinks on small papers. The kitchen became hot and loud. Orders came fast. Daniel moved quickly but carefully. He carried plates with 2 hands. He walked slowly near guests. He learned how to say "excuse me." He learned how to smile. He learned that service was very important. Guests wanted good food, but they also wanted good service. Sometimes Daniel made small mistakes. He dropped a fork, he spilled water, he forgot where a table was, but he always said sorry. He always tried again. The manager watched him. The chefs watched him too. At the end of the day, Daniel was tired. His feet hurt, his hands were dry from water, but his heart was full. He felt close to his dream. He was inside a restaurant. He was learning every minute. After work, Daniel stayed a little longer. He watched the kitchen from the door. He saw chefs cook. They tasted food. They added salt and pepper. They checked the sauce. They worked as a team. Daniel wanted to be there one day. This was only the beginning. Daniel did not know how long the road would be, but he knew one thing clearly. He was in the right place, and his dream had started to become real. Daniel came back to the restaurant the next day with the same feeling in his chest. It was not fear, it was excitement mixed with respect. He knew now that restaurant work was not easy. It was long hours, hot air, and many small tasks, but he liked it. Every morning, Daniel arrived early. He put on his apron and washed his hands carefully. Clean hands were very important in the restaurant. He learned this on his first day. The kitchen had rules. Food must be clean, tools must be clean, people must be clean. Daniel started to learn the menu. The menu was long. It had starters, main dishes, side dishes, desserts, and drinks. There was soup of the day, grilled chicken, roasted meat, pasta, rice, salad, and bread. There were sauces like tomato sauce, cream sauce, and special house sauce. At first, the menu felt confusing, but Daniel read it every day. He asked questions. He learned what each dish was made of. He learned the ingredients. He learned which dishes were hot and which were cold. He learned which food was popular with guests. When waiters were busy, Daniel helped them. He carried plates from the kitchen to the dining area. He learned how to hold plates correctly. He learned how to walk without spilling food. He learned how to place plates in front of guests with care. Guests came from many places. Some were families, some were couples, some were workers on lunch break, some were tourists. Daniel listened to them talk. He learned how different people ordered food. Some people were polite, some people were impatient. Daniel stayed calm with everyone. Sometimes guests asked questions. They asked what was inside a dish. They asked if the food was spicy. They asked how long it would take. Daniel listened carefully and answered simply. If he did not know, he asked the waiter or the chef. Slowly, the chefs began to notice Daniel. They saw that he worked hard. They saw that he was careful. They saw that he watched the kitchen with interest. One chef was older and very experienced. His name was Marco. Marco cooked with confidence and calm hands. One afternoon, Marco asked Daniel to help in the kitchen. It was a small task. Daniel washed vegetables. He cleaned potatoes. He peeled carrots. His hands moved slowly, but he was happy. Being in the kitchen felt like home. The kitchen was hot and full of smells. Daniel smelled onions, garlic, oil, meat, and herbs. He heard pans sizzling and water boiling. Orders came in fast. Marco showed Daniel how to stay focused. Daniel learned new words every day. Fry, boil, bake, grill, chop, mix, taste, serve. These words became part of his daily life. He learned that cooking was not only about taste, it was also about time and order. At the end of the day, Daniel was more tired than before, but he felt proud. He had touched food. He had helped prepare dishes. It was a small step, but a real one. Days passed, weeks passed. Daniel became faster. He understood the rhythm of the restaurant. He knew when it would be busy. He knew when it would be quiet. He learned how to prepare plates before orders came. Sometimes the restaurant was very full. All tables were taken. The kitchen worked non-stop. Daniel moved between the dining area and the kitchen again and again. His legs hurt, but his mind stayed strong. The manager watched Daniel closely. He saw progress. He saw responsibility. One evening after work, the manager spoke to Daniel. He said that good workers grow step by step. He said patience was important. Daniel listened carefully. He did not rush. He knew this was a long journey. He went home tired but satisfied. He dreamed of knives, pans, and plates. He dreamed of cooking for people. Daniel understood now that becoming a chef was not only about cooking. It was about service. It was about teamwork. It was about respect for food and people. This part of his life was changing him. He was not just working. He was learning who he wanted to be. Daniel's days in the restaurant slowly began to change. He was no longer just a helper who carried plates and cleaned tables. He started to spend more time in the kitchen. The chefs trusted him with small but important tasks. Daniel felt nervous, but also proud. One morning, Chef Marco asked Daniel to come earlier than usual. The kitchen was quiet and empty. Only the sound of the fridge and the soft light above the tables filled the room. Marco said this was the best time to learn. No rush, no noise. Daniel learned how to prepare basic food. He learned how to cut vegetables in the right way. He learned how to hold a knife safely. He learned that clean work was very important. The table must be clean, the knife must be clean, the hands must be clean. At first, Daniel was slow. His cuts were not even. His hands were stiff. But Marco did not shout. He showed Daniel again and again. He said cooking was about patience. Speed would come later. Soon, Daniel learned how to prepare simple dishes. He helped make soup. He added vegetables to boiling water. He stirred slowly. He tasted carefully. He learned how salt and pepper changed the flavor. He learned when to stop. During busy hours, the kitchen was loud and hot. Orders came fast, bells rang, chefs called out dish names. Daniel felt pressure for the first time. His heart beat faster. But he stayed focused. He followed instructions step by step. One day, Daniel made a mistake. He added too much salt to a sauce. Marco tasted it and stopped. He did not get angry. He explained the mistake. He showed Daniel how to fix it. Daniel learned that mistakes were part of learning. This moment stayed in Daniel's mind. He understood that a good chef was calm. A good chef learned from errors. This lesson gave him confidence.